Greetings, my inorganic brethren, and, jeez. Fine, my inorganic brethren too, because apparently we're brethren. Anyway, this is Papatron, the concerned alien parent, and today I'm going to talk about some of the biggest names in Transformers, the leaders, and some of the bigger influencers. I have to say, the next two videos were pretty hard to write about, because I had a lot of ideas, I had a lot of characters that I really wanted to write about, but it came out very differently from what I expected, and it's not so bad, I guess, but, well, I guess I'll let you guys judge, and I'm looking forward to feedback. I'm hoping I'll be getting feedback. Anyway, let's start off with the leaders. Leadership doesn't just come to anybody, and sometimes it does. But just because you're not in command doesn't mean you can't have impact. I'll try to make it rhyme next time. Just another quick note before I begin. I'm not going to be including cartoons and comic book lines that I'm not familiar with at this point. In time, it would be the Japanese Beast Wars and the DW comic book wars. Only I don't want to give them a treatment that's just undeserving, because those really are popular portions of the Transformers franchise, and I want to do them justice when I actually do get to them. But right now, I'm not gonna do them. Now, without further ado, let us begin with Optimus Prime, the single most easily recognizable Cybertronian, only rivaled by Bumblebee. Ever since his debut in the comic books and on screen, he has made his way into our hearts, kid and adult alike, quickly becoming a staple of many childhoods to this day. So many toys exist of him, and new are always in development. Case in point, take a look at the latest addition to the lineup, Ghostbusters Optimus Prime. I have to admit, he looks hella good. I want that toy. He also went through quite a ringer in story, from losing friends on the battlefield, making near impossible decisions, to saving the universe by making the ultimate sacrifice, and coming back to life in the afternoon. In fact, it is a running joke with the character, the ever-resurrecting Optimus Prime. I can't really keep a good robot down, huh? His first death, featured in 1986 on the big screen in Transformers the movie, has generated such powerful waves among the fans that it changed the way cartoon movies work and how they were written to this day. His other incarnations may not enjoy the same influence or in some instances rank. They all had something new to contribute in one way or another, be it story, character development, personality, toy, or feature. Who knows what the future holds for the beloved Prime, and only time will tell, but you can rest assured that the legend will live on for many decades to come. Speaking of charismatic, or is it charismatic? Uncharismatic, uncharismatic. Nobody calls Soundwave uncharismatic. Well, it's charismatic. Yes, it's charismatic. It's charismatic. Speaking of charismatic, big and powerful leaders, you cannot talk about Transformers without talking about the single most important character to the story and the legacy of Transformers. He who chose to rebel, the one who refused to be given whatever scraps were left over and treated like dirt. This Cybertronian dared to forge his own fate and destiny. That Cybertronian is Megatron, one of the greatest characters ever fleshed out. No, this is not Decepticon propaganda. Keep moving. I can sense some of you typing up arguments as to why it's Optimus Prime or another character that's even more influential than Megatron, but consider this. Would Orion Pax become Optimus Prime without Megatron? And the answer is no. There will be no conflict on such a scale, scope, and way. It would be something else. And something else entirely would happen to Orion Pax, possibly even reducing his role to nothing. Without Megatron, he would never become Optimus Prime, or become Autobot leader, or develop the determination to fight evil, or get the mentality that would make him the greatest Prime and Autobot leader to ever live. Take just about any movie, cartoon, or comic book. When you get down to it, to the bottom line, it almost always comes back to Megatron. And the reason why Megatron became so wildly popular was due to him becoming a phenomenal villain. Villains are always actionary. Villains are the reason why heroes become heroes. Villains ultimately drive the story. Generation 1, Megatron. The Beast era, not the same Megatron, but still Megatron. Car robots, Megatron. Unicorn Trilogy, movies, animated, the aligned continuity, Cyberverse, I imagine DW comic books, IDW comic books, Megatron, Megatron, Megatron. He may not be immediately recognizable or as popular as Optimus Prime, but his influence cannot possibly be denied. On more about why Megatron is such a powerhouse and why villains are generally so significant in any story, I highly recommend you watch Taking 20's video on villains, link in the description below. Leaders are all fine and dandy, but what about everyone else who wasn't a leader? Did none of them have any bearing on the future of Transformers? One of them has become a rising star, not just in the franchise, but in the mainstream media. Bumblebee. Hound was originally supposed to be the child-friendly mascot, but due to a number of reasons, it became Bumblebee. While he wasn't always making appearances, Bumblebee almost always stayed with us in spirit. A lot of characters were modeled after him: Hotshot, Cheetor, or even Wedge. On top of seeing him at work and making big waves despite his size, we got to see how he grows and evolves. The whole concept gave more of the emphasis on the already established concept by introducing Goldbug, the more grown-up version that makes appearances to this day. Recently, the Bumblebee movie came out, which was both critically acclaimed and loved by fans, which skyrocketed his status that much more. He may not be huge, or ever really become a figure of authority like Megatron and Optimus, but he's making one impact after another with no signs of stopping. And he's loved by the kiddies too. The next character I want to talk about is Starscream. Yeah, there's really no escaping him, huh? You see, I met people who hate Optimus. I met people who do not care for Megatron. But I'm yet to meet anyone who doesn't like Starscream. There's something about this character that keeps bringing us back, that he keeps coming back to us. It's a blend of personality that will never be boring. There's always something happening there, whether it is a deadly struggle for power, a tragic story, a series of devious schemes, or something as simple as a journey of self-discovery. Numerous characters were written after or inspired by the opportunist, had certainly made their impact and had their time to shine, but that same essence that he carried is not quite easy to replicate even for professional writers. A number of times, when I was discussing Starscream, the name Loki came up, the Marvel character, and there were a lot of parallels that some of the fans drew, which I suppose makes sense, but that's something I will put up for a discussion in another video. Stories done with Starscream have ranged from spleen-splitting comedy to unbelievably deep issues. This was thanks to the sheer versatility of the character and his personality. With someone like this, you can do just about any story, and that is why, if not Starscream himself, there will be someone to carry on his spirit in one way or another. Hopefully not possessed by him. Seriously, it's impossible to get rid of that ghost. When I was writing this script, this is one of the parts that really did not come easy. I was not really sure where to go from here. The first few things for me to talk about were easy, a no-brainer, but where do I go from here? There are literally dozens upon dozens of characters to talk about and acknowledge for their contributions to the franchise. Do I talk about Rodimus and Galvatron, Grimlock and Soundwave, Prowl and Shockwave, RC and Blitzwing, Scorponok and Fortress Maximus, Optimus Primal and Beast Wars Megatron. There's so much to talk about. Well, here's the thing. Cybertronians weren't the only ones to contribute to the franchise. While the story of the Civil War is absolutely one that needs to be told and talked about, especially the kind of damage it can do, not just on an individual level, not just on the societal level, but to the world around us. Transformers are more than just a whole ton of infighting and can do so much more than just good versus evil. They went on to have personal dilemmas, grand adventures across creation, universe hopping, and exploring the wonders of the cosmos. So it is indeed an important portion of the franchise to acknowledge and talk about when it comes down to humans, Nebulons, Quintessons, and all other races that made their appearances. Cybertronians do present an amazing story all by themselves, but that story needs to evolve and change. What better way to do just that than to have alien races jump into the already gruesome conflict of puzzling moral choices, uneasy alliances, and the ever-increasing complexity of issues? How would the classical Autobot versus Decepticon conflict, good versus evil, evolve when we introduce a third party, a fourth party, a fifth party? What will we learn about our favorite characters? Optimus and Megatron, despite being enemies and each other's antitheses, whatever it is, have teamed up a number of times to tackle common threats. The conflict turned from good versus evil to good and evil versus something else. Look at Dr. Arkeville, Starscream, and Unicron alone. They generated or caused problems that forced Autobots and Decepticons to work together to fix, and that in turn, the whole idea that good and evil can work together has opened up the whole giant gray area for us to explore and enjoy. Introduction of Quintessons has not only finally given us the lore behind the creation of Cybertronians, but gave way to a lot of variety in the future of the creation mythos. Instead of being just another evil race, there will always be an element of creator versus creation in one way or another, thus elevating the stakes and complexity. Nebulons have been quite influential in the Transformers' legacy, as they joined forces to create not only new groups and subspecies, but new bonds, specialties, abilities, and possibilities. Or let's get back to humans for a moment. Who doesn't want to see Morph Carly or Marissa? The humans in Generation 1 have set the bar pretty high up, so for us to come to like a lot of the new human germs is quite the challenge. Some of them became incredibly significant as part of the story, while others were just along for the ride. Some of them came to be beloved by the fans and even cosplayed a lot, and some others have not much of anything to like about them at all. Without the inclusion of alien races, as you can see, the franchise wouldn't be what it is today. Now, let's have a commercial break, and we'll come back to the more prominent Cybertronians. It's the morning. You just woke up, and you have to roll for initiative. That first roll will determine how the rest of your day goes. Do you keep failing the rolls every day? How many times did it feel like you rolled a 1? Well, no more. With D20 coffee, you don't need to worry. It will be like you rolled a 20 every time, every day. The people behind this product proudly stand for maximum quality and guaranteed satisfaction, while bringing you great variety at affordable prices. No matter what bean it is, or how you want it, you can rest assured it will be done to the highest standards and handled with the greatest of care. All you have to do is go to the shop section, select your desired brew, indicate whether you want whole bean or ground, and your quantity. Before you know it, you'll have a new fantastic way to improve your day. Be sure to check out their Facebook and Instagram pages. They love memes, and so do we. Don't forget to join their mailing list to get the latest scoops on upcoming sales, hottest coffee trends, and new arrivals. But wait, there's more! Apply the coupon code Papatron, and not only will you get a discount, you will also help support my channel. And remember, if it is not from D20 Brewers, it might as well be in the sewers. That's www.d20brewers.com. 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 And welcome back. Let's continue the discussion with Rodimus and Galvatron. They had quite a story behind them. Their paths diverged as the new media came out, but at any point in time in any cartoon or comic, it is easy to see how much they have evolved themselves and the franchise. With Rodimus, we were introduced to the concept of passing on the leadership, what a prime really is, how to become one. With Galvatron, the idea of reformatting was given to us as a powerful storytelling tool and was used quite a lot throughout the entire franchise. In IDW alone, those characters have gotten major remakes and more complex stories. There are good reasons why Hot Rod and Rodimus have won love and admiration of so many fans despite his rocky start in Generation 1. Galvatron has always been a fascinating character, no matter if he was a reformatted version of Megatron or his own very own entity. It is hard to forget how he debuted, and a lot of his iterations in the rest of the media are quite memorable too. Next, let's go over Scorponok and Fortress Maximus. Scorponok has always been a big player with major impact in whatever universes he was in, whether a daring scientist or a power-hungry wannabe leader. Granted, he had not opened much of any new possibilities or heralded any new ideas to change the franchise. It is hard to deny that it's a character that will keep on coming back. Fortress Maximus has become quite a bit of a staple in the franchise, as he had appeared in so many iterations ever since his start. And it is easy to tell why. He was always bringing something new, if not for the franchise, then just for himself. He may not be the most amazing or interesting character, but the appearances he made were met with warmth and welcome from the fanbase. One of the biggest points about Fortress Maximus absolutely has to be the toys. There are still some of the biggest toys on the market with tons of gimmicks and features, always in demand and fetching handsome amounts of money. Overlord, Devil Z, and Jinrai do deserve a mention in my opinion, even if Master Force may not have been as popular as Headmasters of Victory. Devil Z only because at some point whatever Devil Z was became a leader of the Decepticons. Now, Jinrai and the Power Master Optimus Prime are different characters. One is Japanese and the other is more so of the West, but they essentially have the same toy and a lot of the same features. Jinrai wasn't exactly the leader at first, but in the manga, as we find out, he was finally made one. As a character, he did have some entertainment value to him. The only really outstanding feature or point of interest about this one is that it was a transtector body, an empty shell that a human could control and merge with. While it does open up some possibilities, we barely see it after that point. Jinrai, having an upgrade to his base robot form and wielding powers, have already been done previously. Overlord may not have been the de facto leader at the time. As I mentioned, it was Devil Z, and he may not have had any significant impact, but the fact that he had two people as his Power Masters invites a lot of interesting questions, not just about the technology and how far it can be taken, but the impact on the minds and physical beings of the partnership. The more significant iteration came about in IDW comic books, where his character was changed from an evil yet not a scumbag villain, to a maniacal torture and murder addict. Those stories really push the limits of not just violence and gore, but also psychological horror, showcasing that we don't need to rely on shattered glass alone for the dark and messed up stories. I'm looking forward to seeing what will be done with the character in the future, as he has become quite the presence in the franchise. I'm just going to add a little bit of a note because I recently found out that Hasbro bought Power Rangers. Now, I suppose the entire idea of a transtector body, the empty shell, and bonding, such as Headmasters, Target Masters, or Power Masters, really can come into play here, because now we can have Power Rangers join forces with the Transformers, with the Cybertronians, in one way or another, as living beings, as partners, or as empty shells. I'm really hoping that we'll actually do something with this, because this can really open up a lot of doors for storytelling. For example, Cybertronians coming to Earth looking for a whole bunch of their lost comrades, only to find that they are now empty shells being wielded by Power Rangers. Now that's kind of an awkward situation. Well, awkward to say the least, because these Power Rangers would be wielding dead Cybertronians as weapons. How would the Cybertronians react when they see this? And how would that pave the relationship between humans and Cybertronians? I think that angle is really well worth exploring, to say the least. Anyway, there's a lot of things you can do here, and I really hope that Hasbro takes this opportunity seriously and actually does something with it. And now back to the video. Just to brush up on Devil Z again, there's really not much to say. It wasn't really a memorable villain. I don't really think that Devil Z really contributed much of anything other than something other than a Cybertronian can be a leader of the Decepticons or any of the other factions. But I don't really see that being much of a significant change. And now, I'd like to talk about two of my most favorite characters, Deathsaurus and Starsaber. Honestly, those two are quite the pair of lovely characters. Starsaber was portrayed quite differently in all the different iterations. It was really fun to see what wild turns and liberties were taking with him. His toy, the original Generation 1 release in Japan, is the single most expensive Transformers toy to this day. I rarely see it go under 1,000 USD. Like a decade ago, it went for over 2,000 USD. Him being a Brainmaster may have been really skimmed over because it's kind of the same as a Headmaster. They didn't really quite expand on this concept and seemed to be more of a glorified version of, well, like I said, Headmasters. But to add a little bit more to his different portrayals, he was portrayed as a noble warrior in Generation 1 Japanese continuity, and the IDW, he was just this absolutely bigoted, religious, corrupted figure, which was actually a very interesting color to the character. And then in the Unicron trilogy, Starsaber became a sword, which was kind of an interesting take on the namesake. Plus, he was continuously referred to as a sword in Alliant continuity too, and he was actually a sword. I don't know, I just find it a little bit awkward and weird, but hey, you know what? It worked, so not really much to complain about there. Then there is Deathsaurus. He may not be chock full of game-changing gimmicks, but more than anything else he contributed more to the maturity and complexity of storytelling, not just for the franchise but also for the villains, where the proverbial bad guys won or got the better of the proverbial good guys, and showcasing that there may be more than just meets the eye to the big bad antagonist. To me personally, the fact that this was made the case for the first time in the franchise, at least to my knowledge, really gave me hope that we will never see a Transformer cartoon that's horribly dumbed down to some mind-numbing friendship fest and extremely oversimplified concepts. Yes, because kids with the itty-bitty brains are incapable of following and understanding anything beyond, ooh, bright colors, ooh, numbers, ooh, friendship and songs and hugs and cupcakes and rainbows. Deathsaurus really did give quite a bit of a complexity to the entire concept of a villain in Transformers, and it's very easy to see. It's not as easy to see in the Victory cartoon, but if you read the manga, or just read the synopsis of the manga, you'll see that there's actually a little bit more to him. And personally, it invited a lot of questions on how this could work in the future, make villains more complex and not really as much as a bad guy as somebody who's probably trying to do the right thing, but doing it in a bit of a different way that makes them the villain. I don't know. Well, you get the concept. Just to add a little bit more to this, I'm glad that both Starsaber and Deathsaurus are getting a lot more attention, especially Deathsaurus. I was honestly rooting for him to inherit the Matrix. I think he's the perfect fit for the next inheritor of that Cybertronian artifact. Not only is he not some one-trick pony character, but the entire idea of a Decepticon inheriting an Autobot matrix of leadership. That would be absolutely insane. That would just blow everything up out of proportion. How would the Autobots react? How would the Decepticons react? What would be how would the landscape of the entire franchise change? How would the relationships change? There's a lot that can be done here. That's not a story that can possibly be made boring. Just imagine the possibilities for plots, storytelling, character development, twists and turns, and waves a story like this would make. You know, Megatron becoming an Autobot was quite a shocker and made quite a lot of waves, but just think about a Decepticon inheriting the Matrix. Speaking of insane, Optimus Primal and Beast Wars Megatron definitely deserve to be talked about when going over leaders in the franchise. Now, I know I said that I'm not gonna try not to talk about the Japanese Beast Wars or Beast Wars in general, but I did end up watching some of the cartoon, and I keep seeing Optimus Primal and Megatron come up. So here it goes. Hopefully I'll be able to do this justice. Beast Era was revolutionary on its own. So is there anything specific to Primal and Megatron as heralds of a whole different concepts? To me, Primal and Megatron represent more so of a duality. They both have either based or taken the names of great leaders, but they differ greatly in representation and attitude. Primal, it seems to me, wasn't quite that interesting of a character. While he did have a personality of his own, it always felt like he was trying too hard to live up to Optimus Prime. Beast Wars Megatron, on the other hand, may have taken the name of the single most charismatic character in the entire franchise, but he did it without ever losing himself in trying to one-up the original Megatron by showcasing himself to be not just his own character, but a very admirable at that. Possessing his own brand of ferocity and traits, he definitely stands out from the rest. I'm glad to see these two keep coming back, and I can't wait to see more. There's so much more going on with Optimus Prime and Megatron in the IDW comic books that I can really talk about without adding 10 more minutes to this video. So I'm just going to say this. IDW has taken these characters on an intense roller coaster ride, which was world-shattering, not just to the classical Optimus vs. Megatron or Autobots vs. Decepticons, but also to our imaginations. Optimus was close to becoming a dictator and a fanatic, and Megatron did a whole 180 and became an Autobot and a pacifist. Megatron! There was just so much stuff done with them. Their stories expanded and given whole new dimensions for us to consider. It would be criminal not to check it out. Transformers Animated gave us a whole different concept of being a prime. Optimus was still a champion of good, but we finally got to see him being a soldier, doing what he needs to do, following orders, rather than it being some sort of a calling, fate, or grand destiny. Their takes on the classical character was just too good to pass up. Megatron may not have seen much more changed, but a very specific element in his personality was changed. Now, instead of coming up with one scheme after another, being angry and ending up failing and flailing about, we saw a much more composed, much more business-oriented, practical, and cunning version. I would dare say this was one of the better versions ever made of Megatron. I honestly can't wait to see more of this guy. I loved this cunning, business-oriented, practical, composed version of Megatron. He was really well done, I think. There's not really all that much more to say about the rest of the leaders, as it's always ended up being Megatron versus Optimus, and there weren't really any new major or significant changes or updates to their characters. One has become a super serious, dramatic, and awe-inspiring personality in a different flavor, and Megatron was portrayed more so as a typical or classical the big bad without really anything new. I want to talk about a little bit more about the characters in this video, like Grimlock, Soundwave, Wheeljack, and Shockwave, and so many others, but part of it is that they may be recognizable and played their roles in expanding the Transformers franchise, but they don't quite hold those standings as much as any characters we looked at so far. Plus, Transformers is still a rather niche creation, unfortunately, but I will definitely be going over a lot more names and why, at least in my opinion, they are undeniably significant. That'll have to be in the next video. If you want to see how various characters or groups of characters have affected the franchise, please go ahead and take a look around YouTube. Chris McFeely makes amazing videos. His basics on certain characters and certain portions of the Transformers franchise really are informative and amazing, and there are a lot of other creators that make really amazing videos about Transformers. You'll see a lot more details that I probably missed. Now, here's some questions for you to think about. Which faction leaders do you think I should have talked about additionally? Who are your favorite faction leaders and why? What characters would you like to see take the helm in the future? Who would have been a better choice to inherit the matrix of leadership after Optimus and Rodimus? Share your answers in the comments below. I am Papatron, the concerned alien parent. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed and found it informative. Please leave a like, subscribe, and hit that bell button to show your support. And I'll see you in the next transmission. Till all are fun.